Hello everyone, welcome to the Roaming Barista Pour Over Coffee Guide. So we're going to start with an overview of the equipment. First here we have our Hario coffee cones. This one on the left here is a plastic cone, and as you can see has a built-in base which fits directly on top of the cup in which you're pouring over into. They both use paper filters. There's also cloth and cloth and metal ones available. So this is the Hario glass cone that I'm using here, and it's fitted onto a homemade base. The base fits a scale underneath, and this allows me to weigh the final coffee product at the end and without having to factor in the grind weight as well, which the plastic one you'd have to fit in the grind weight. I'll use a Hario pour over pot for both of these, but today we're just going to do the glass cone. So what we're going to start with is a preheating of both the coffee pot that I'm using underneath as well as pre-wetting the filter. So I'm just going to fit the filter in here, and I'm just going to make sure to wet the entire side. So this will heat up the cone, which is glass, as well as preheat the pot below. So one of the reasons why we want to pre-wet the filter is just so that we don't have to taste the kind of paper filtery taste that often comes from a dry filter being hit with water initially. So we're going to set that aside, and we're just going to let the pot on the bottom preheat for a little bit as we weigh out our coffee. So here we're going to use 24 grams of coffee. Alright, so we're going to empty out the water and we're going to prepare to grind. So for pour overs, this is pretty much your standard drip grind, maybe slightly coarser than that. It'll really depend, but this is pretty much just your general drip. So that would be in between espresso and French press, pretty much smack dab in between. For me, I generally just grind directly into the cone. So it's easy for me to grind directly into the cone because I do have a spouted grinder. It's also perfectly fine to grind into a bowl first and then just pour it in. You kind of want it to be pretty even on the top. And now we're going to go ahead and set up to actually do the pour over. So we're going to place the container underneath, and I'm going to give you guys an overshot view. So what we're going to start with is a 40-second pre-infusion. The idea of the pre-infusion is to bloom the coffee a little bit. As you can see, it's not perfectly pre-infused. Not everything is completely wet. Really what we want to try to do is bloom the coffee without extracting any, or with extracting as little as possible. So we don't want a lot of coffee to be dripping to the pot below. If you can help it, try to get none at all. It really just comes with practice. Alright, so now that we have bloomed our coffee, we're going to begin. So, my pour over method is a 20-40 approach, so 20 seconds on and then 40 seconds off. This means that I will actually be pouring water into the pour over cone for 20 seconds, and then I will let it drain out from the cone for 40 seconds. So my general approach is to do concentric circles within the cone. Really try not to hit the filter itself. You don't want the coffee or the water to be running along the side and bypassing a lot of that coffee. You want to hit close to the center, avoiding the sides as much as possible. So following this approach, our total elapsed time is going to be 4 minutes. So that means a total of 4 intervals of pouring and 4 intervals of resting. Our final weight that we want to achieve is 320 grams of finished product. And so that means an 80 gram pour per pouring interval. One tactic I like to employ is I like to start pouring from the center, and this helps create a deeper divot into the pile of grinds, and it'll make it easier to fill up that cone with water without it overflowing out onto the sides. So as much as possible, you want to keep the water level fairly controlled. You don't want it to be too high over the grinds, because this will actually allow some of the water to run along the filter and bypass those grinds. Speed through these next 2 intervals, but something that you might notice as you're going through consecutive intervals is that the foam, as you're doing the pour over, will get continuously blonder and blonder. And this is a good indication of how well the coffee is being extracted. Pretty much by the 4th interval, your coffee is going to be completely blonde, and there might be splotches of parts where there is no foam. And this is kind of an indicator of how much extraction has actually occurred. Alright, so now we're here at the final interval. On another note, as we're doing this pour over, just make sure that you have a bowl ready. In my case, I just used the grinding bowl that we used, and once that 4-minute mark hits, what we're going to do is immediately pull out the vessel that we're extracting into and just replace this with that little grinding bowl afterwards. The purpose of this is just to cut extraction immediately after that 4-minute mark. We don't want to get any more of that liquid in there. Anything that's dripping out of the cone after that is going to be fairly bitter liquid. So here we go. I'll pour that under there, and we are done. Alright, so here we are. We have the pot of finished coffee to the left, and there's our stand. I'll just push it back. Now we are ready to serve. Empty out the serving cup. And there you go, just pour. Alright, we're all done here. So enjoy. So for more information on pour overs, please visit the link in the description below.